From the New England School of Communications on the campus of Husson University, this is the Maine Report, the way news should be.
Hello and welcome to the Maine Report. My name is Calvin Cutler. Today we'll be discussing the ever-changing field of journalism in a digital world. Social media, new mobile technologies, and constant connection to the world give journalists many new challenges. Our guest today is ABC Channel 7 and Fox Channel 22 reporter Jack Hilton. He's a veteran multimedia journalist who graduated from the New England School of Communications in 2016. He currently writes, edits, and produces content for WVII and WVIX in Bangor. Jack, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Calvin.
So how did you get interested in the storytelling process in the first place?
Well, a few years ago, I had an uncle who was murdered in Brazil, and his story became kind of a cold case situation, a lot of rumors, a lot of false reporting, good reporting. So it kind of sparked me to want to be an advocate for people and really tell their stories and kind of help them out and their families.
And so how did you get involved here in Bangor, Channel 7?
Well, I interned at Channel 7 while a student, as you mentioned, at New England School of Communications. And then finally, my boss, I guess, liked me and kind of hired me. And he took a risk. Let's just say that he took a risk. And I've just been working since March as it is. So it's like 9 months now that I've been at Channel 7.
And what do you do there?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a reporter. I edit, I shoot my own video. I'll drive to Machias by myself or to Belfast or here, or stay local. But I'll cover stories from fires to people interest to a court case, or a trial that 30 years ago there was someone who murdered somebody, so he's on trial still even 30 years later. So just a variety of topics.
That's interesting. So now, you can't say that social media isn't a huge part of journalism today.
Oh, it's huge.
And so how do you engage with different forms of social media?
Well, one thing that we do with all of our stories, or even when we go to a scene of something, we always tweet, just because to be the first one there, or even if you're not the first one there, just to get the information out quickly, but obviously truthfully and with all the information. They rather have us have nothing than produce false reporting. So one case where social media really becomes effective is where not everyone can see it. So if I'm in a courtroom, with that case that happened 30 years ago, being able to communicate to people who aren't there and say, oh, he just took his plea, his arraignment was $20,000, or et cetera. So just being able to use social media to inform people in places where maybe only one camera can go in.
So it's definitely it's important to get the facts right the first time.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. And you know what? I feel like people actually look to see if you have your information all right the first time. And I think they should. I think we should definitely. It's one of those things where, you don't have an editor with you. So I think to really be placed in a place of accountability is so important, even as journalists. And I think where it's important to let the public know what's happening so quickly, because they do want to know, and they should know what's happening. If something happening down the street, I would want to know that something bad happening down the street. And sometimes not everyone it could wait until the 6 o'clock news. So to be able to see it, in 3 minutes, at 10 o'clock in the morning, oh no, something's happening.
How do you feel like there's an increased responsibility, I guess I should say, for journalists?
I think because, as I was mentioning, yes, it allows us to get our information out quickly. I think there's an increased responsibility to make sure you talk to the appropriate people and you have the appropriate thing written down. It's not just, this person died, and that person didn't actually die, but you heard rumors, or maybe some of the people standing around said, oh, I think he died, and you're like, people, we don't report rumors. So if it's rumored that the person died, we don't say it. We want to make sure you talk to your officials and you get the details accurate, because you really are impacting the lives of people. And if you say, oh yeah, John Doe died, and his family hears that he died, try explaining that he's not actually dead.
That's true. And when you get assigned a story, how do you prepare the content for the different stages of social media, if you will?
It really depends. So there's days where I know ahead of time what I'm doing. There's days where I come in and they're like, oh yeah, you're going to East Machias. And you're like, oh, okay. And sometimes you'll have, what I'll typically get is a main story package, and then I'll get 2 or 3 VOSOTs. And I'll go, and sometimes two packages or two VOSOTs could be better than my package, more detail, more activities. So I think when it comes to maybe if I know my story is the lighthouse keeper, there's a ceremony. It's one of those things where it's not. There's a certain time, or else it's over. So while I'm there, I'll report, hundreds of people gathered at the ceremony to honor veterans or lighthouse keepers, and you're keeping the people involved. Versus if I went to just maybe a story that I arranged, so somebody who I met up with because we scheduled a time, I might not be so quick to go, oh, let me tweet this, just because it's nothing that's happening right now. It's something that can kind of wait when I post my stories at the end of the day. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And how long does it take you to produce a package normally?
It depends. That's also a thing. Some days I'll get back to the station at like 4:30, and my stories typically have to be in at 5:30. So you're hauling right there. So you have an hour, typically to get your stuff done, depending what time you get in. On weekends, you have a longer time. Our show starts at 10 o'clock. So I might take my time a little bit more to make sure I have enough B-roll. I have what I want. Make sure I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I kind of spend a little bit longer than I need to if given that time. So it really depends. I would say typically for me a good hour to make sure that I track my package, I write my package, I have the thoughts where I want them, the interviews, quotes where I want them, and what I'll say.
And also in that hour, does that include putting to Facebook, social media, Twitter, etc.?
No, the next hour goes to editing the video myself, making sure it's ready to go. I would say right before I leave is when I upload things to the website and social media and post it so people can see it before the show starts.
Cool, awesome. Well, right now we have to head to a break, but thank you, Jackie. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss more about the role of social media in journalism and its future.
Get your ass up. You're not sitting here.
Yes, I am.
Move. Give it to him hard.
No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why you stab me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how.
Oh, you got...
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
And welcome back to the Maine Report. My name is Calvin Cutler. Our topic today is the role of social media in journalism. Our guest is ABC 7 and Fox 22 reporter, Jack Hilton. Jack, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So earlier we were talking before the break about, producing content, producing packages, social media, etc., and how long it takes. What differences do you see in journalism today versus 20 years ago, and its quality too?
I would say maybe older journalism might have more time. I think before, print was one of those things where it was, I guess, journalism to the T, and then radio came, and then television. So you had more time, I guess, with deadlines, whereas every single day is your deadline. You don't have a week to work on your story unless it's a sweep series that I'm working on. And even when you're working on your sweep series, you're still working every single day on the package or VOSOT, I think that you have more time, I think more so in print, to do like investigative reporting, because you have that time to really look into information and spend that appropriate time to make sure you have your facts checked. Whereas like in today's journalism, everything has to be quick and ready and presented, because there's a shooting somewhere. No one wants to wait a week or 3 days to find out what happened. They want to see what happened now, and that's where social media kind of allows everyone to even get that information before the show starts. We can, on our website ourselves, we can have an entire package or even an article produced and ready to go for people to know what happened. So it really, I think everything's faster now.
Definitely. And how does social media change the way that you approach the story, like your angle to it?
For me, the stories that I typically do, more so like feature stories. So I definitely use social media in the way that I present it as a way to not necessarily pull on heartstrings, but I like to think of Bangor, the target audience in Bangor, and what people typically like. So that really helps when I'm creating my headline as well. So a lot of older people here in Bangor, a lot of vets, So a lot of the stories that I do with veterans, I say, I tie it somehow, and I use social media to, share it. So maybe the way I upload it would be kind of different, knowing that, okay, more people would definitely click my story versus if I did a story about garbage collection day, So what I'll do sometimes is I'll upload the video straight to Facebook versus just attaching a link. That way people who I feel that it might really impact will be able to see it, right? Because there's a lot of older people too, not everyone knows to click the link. So depending on how I want my story to be seen, I'll upload it directly to Facebook or I'll attach a link to our webpage.
And what are some benefits of using these new social media forms over traditional print journalism?
Like I said, everything's faster. So there was a time I went with a summit project and I went hiking on Cadillac Mountain with a bunch of people who have lost somebody in the military, whether it was killed in action or if it was something, when they were living a civilian life. But I was able to hike on the mountain with them and go live on Facebook. When you can just go live and click a button and people can see and experience what you're experiencing, that's a benefit, I feel, because everyone gets that little notification that who's following us, and they'll say, oh, WVII and Fox Bangor, they're going live, and they're like, oh, what's happening? And they get to see the story like that. So I think that's a huge benefit versus, as I mentioned, you have to wait for the town crier to pass out that paper and say, oh yeah, read all about it.
Or even, instead of having like a complete, TV van with a satellite dish and reporters and stuff, you can do it right on your phone.
We have backpacks. We don't have that van. So we don't, as I mentioned, there's very few times that I will be able to have a photog with me. I'll usually do everything myself. I shoot by myself. I interview people by myself. I edit. I produce my own packages and VOSOTs. I also go live by myself sometimes. So I'll take a backpack with me. Say I have to drive to Belfast, I just plug it into the small camera that we have, and it sends a feed to the station, and boom, they can get me. I can be live.
That's incredible.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's any dangers of social media? Like, do you feel like it can be abused?
Oh, definitely. I think, as I mentioned, sometimes reporters everywhere can be so quick to tweet and press that send and then not get all the information or facts that they need. I also feel like maybe sometimes reporting about certain topics, there's a way to present it versus just being like, oh yeah, 12-year-old or 6-year-old died. Maybe you can present it, community member loses a loved one, a 6-year-old loved one, and that way I feel like you can be, because you can't necessarily read between the lines, as where people can hear your voice and hear your inflection and hear how you're presenting the story. People have to kind of try to themselves try to differentiate what you're trying to say via text or a Twitter tweet that is, 6 characters, 7 characters, depending how long it is.
Interesting. And so, I don't want to cut you off, but we've got probably about 40 seconds left. Can you tell me, what are some tips that you can give aspiring journalists and storytellers?
Always kind of look at the story for what it is and be fair to everyone. Even if you don't like the person, it's not about your story, it's their story. So I feel like we have a role and we can easily affect someone's life because we tell their story. So you can present it in a bad manner or in a good manner. So be fair to everyone and tell their story.
I like it. I like it. Well, that wraps up this edition of the Maine Report. I'd like to thank my guest, Jack Hilton. My name is Calvin Cutler. Thank you for watching.